Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Second Act Actors. I'm your host, Dr. Janet McMorty, and I'm still a medical doctor simultaneously trying to pursue a career in acting. My guest this week is Jodie Bentley. Jodie is a career coach, an acting coach, and an actor herself. Now, we all know about the algorithm. Yes, if you start thinking about something, the algorithm, in whatever ghost-like form it is, manages to find what you're thinking about and spew it onto your Instagram or social media page. When I was starting my acting journey, learning about acting, wanting to learn about acting, I should say, the algorithm showed me Jodie. And I am so happy that it did. She is an incredible human being who is doing incredible things for actors in our community. We have an amazing conversation. And to be honest, I fangirled a little bit because, she's been in my socials for so long. But we have an incredible conversation about, oh my gosh, everything. Stereotyping in this industry. She talks about essence in this industry, aging in this industry. Oh my gosh, everything. It's an incredible convo. I'm so excited for you to hear her story. Please enjoy Jodie Bentley. Story. How did you get into the acting business and then now teaching and coaching that you do?
Oh my gosh. So I've been singing and acting since I was 10, right? It's like everyone's same old story. Like I did a show musical and I was hooked, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. But I always loved it because for me, it was definitely just an escape from my childhood. Do you know what I mean? And it was a place where I really felt seen and heard, and I wasn't always getting that. So it just fulfilled me so much. Um, just to sing, to perform, to be on stage. I felt seen, and I think that's what got me hooked on it. And then, I did it all through high school and everything and starred in all the high school musicals and all that kind of stuff. But I loved academics. I loved school. I loved studying. I was always had like a 4.0 GPA, like, I love that stuff. So you can relate to this is that, I wanted to be a cardiologist actually. Like I applied to med school, and acting school. Like who does that? And then NYU accepted me early for acting at Tisch School of the Arts, and I was like, all right, I'll go play a doctor on TV then. That sounds more fun. So that's what I chose. But that was sort of the path of that was just, I always just loved it, but I just didn't, and no one in my family, that was, I think the big thing too, is no one in my family were performers. No one in my family were artists in any way. Like my mom was a nurse. My dad was an electrician. My grandparents owned a paint store. Like everything was very, you work hard, you make money. That's it, and you maybe not even doing the things you love. Really. So to go to college for acting was like, ooh, like a big guilt chip on my shoulder for a very long time as well. So I think that was kind of why I was like, well, I'll go be a doctor. But anyway, but then didn't turn out that way. But that's how that started.
Did you ever feel pressure? Like I know you said there's that guilt. Like I know, did you ever feel pressure to do the job that'll just make you money? Like to do the reasonable thing? Did it come from anywhere or was it just kind of internalized from childhood?
I think all of it.
All of it.
Gosh, there's so many ways into this question. Um, so like when I was choosing colleges, my we're getting really TMI here already in this podcast. When when I was choosing colleges, my great aunt had received inheritance from her husband who had passed, and she had told me she would pay for my college education. And my family was very middle class, lower middle class. And I was like, amazing. And then when I told her I wanted to be an actor, she said, I'm not paying for it. So that right there was sort of like, oh, I'm not valued. This is a career is not valued. but I felt like I had to do it. So I went in debt. My parents went in debt, and I went to NYU. But I think there was always this: you work hard, you make money. You work hard, you make money. You live paycheck to paycheck. Like that was kind of the whole how I grew up. But then being an artist and going out into the world after graduation, I'm like, what am I doing? So I did find a job in sales, which supported me a lot through, balancing out jobs and things like that. Because I felt like I needed something. And I didn't want to say stable because I worked in sales. That was an all commission based job. It wasn't stable by any means, but I was good at it. But I just felt like I needed something to bring in the money because I think for probably the first 10 years of my career, I believed I couldn't make money from my art, that I couldn't make money as an actor. I booked every non-paying gig that I could. And then as soon as like I'd go audition for Broadway or a big commercial or whatever, I would somehow self-sabotage. It was all mental. It was all just belief, right? And I wouldn't book it. And I knew that I was talented. I knew who I was. I knew my goals. I knew all that. But there was just this mindset disconnect that I had for a good 10 years, all around money and worth and value, which was a huge impetus for me to create my coaching business, actually, is really where that started to stem from.
Can you tell me a bit more about that? The whole idea of, like, does it come from the whole starving artist mentality, or why do you think that mindset was present?
Um, I don't think it was the starving artist mentality. I didn't feel like, oh, I must suffer for my art. Like I never felt that. It was more, I don't deserve to be paid for this. I'm not good enough to be paid for this. People get paid for things they don't love to do. I love to do this. Why should I get paid? Does that make sense?
Totally. Well, it makes sense given the what you observed in your upbringing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Totally makes sense.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was a really, because I kept like I wanted to book things, but then it was just something was just like, nope, nope, you're not worthy, you don't deserve to. No one else, like again, that whole thing of no one else in your family does what they love. Why should you? You put your parents in debt, you put yourself in debt. What are you doing? All of those stories were so palpable for so long. Um, which I think is why a lot of actors go, I'll just call it I'll call it a quote unquote safer route, but it's not always the safer route, right? And do something else and then come back to acting because they want to have that foundation or that strength, or that voice is so loud that they have to do something else. I just fought the voice and resisted that voice for like far too long. Oh my God.
Well, it's interesting because there is something that about the idea, well, like the money piece, right? Like there's the idea, and you hear the two stories, right? You hear the story of, in order to act, you must only act, and that is it, solely focus, tunnel
Right.
vision, all your priorities need to be on that, and that's how you succeed. Or you hear, no, don't put financial pressure on your art, because then that's no longer art anymore.
Right. Right. I know, and I feel like both are kind of true in some ways, you know what I mean? Yeah, there's definitely two sides to the coin on that. And now like I do have another business, right? And that I've been running for many years, and in some way knowing that I have that foundation, it also does give me a freedom in my acting because I walk in the room and I go, I don't need this for the money. I don't need this job for the money. I need this for my art, for my soul, for my creativity because I want to do this role, but I don't necessarily need it. I mean, look, a series regular money would be great. Universe, I'm not saying I don't need the money. It would be wonderful, is what I want. But I don't walk in going, oh God, this is going to make or break my bank account. You know what I mean? Which was very different in my 20s and 30s. So,
Tell me
yeah.
more about that mindset shift. Like, what happened to unblock that?
Yeah. Oh my God. It was such a long journey of reading. Like I was never educated on money. Money wasn't really talked about in my household. My parents declared bankruptcy when I was a kid. I mean, it was just like, money was bad. Money was evil. Money was bad. We didn't talk about it. Rich people had money. They were greedy. Like those were the conversations around money in my house. So I learned really young, and I was gonna say, don't take this the wrong way, but I don't know who I'm talking to, of like to do the opposite of my parents. Do you know what I mean? Like I saw how they handled things and I was like, I don't want to do that because I don't want to feel like that. And I really think whether it's parent or authority figure, we model what we see and do what we see, or we do the exact opposite of what we see, right? And I feel like I did the exact opposite of what I saw just because I saw what it was doing to them. So when I moved to New York and then graduated college, I was, just educated myself so much on I just read every financial book I could get my hands on, and just really started educating myself. I was reading about investing in stocks at like 25, even though I didn't even do like invest in stocks. I was too scared. I was still reading about it because I was like, I want to know. I want to know what I don't know. And then just really started reading a lot of mindset books. Got into T. Harv Eker and Secrets of the Millionaire Mind and Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich and Rich Dad Poor Dad. All those books. And just, I mean, I was just a sponge soaking all of that up, and went to multiple events that T. Harv Eker had in person, but just really started to unmine um, the blocks that I had of why do I feel this? Oh, that's my dad's voice. That's not my voice. What if the exact opposite was true? And like just really just taking the time to really understand what I saw about money, but what I'm choosing to believe about money. And I mean, that was a journey. It took a while. It took a few years. But then once I removed that block, I booked 7 commercials that next year. So I knew it was a mindset thing that was holding me back. But it was really just getting really clear on just those limiting beliefs that I was still carrying as my story and my truth, and they just weren't. And just finding ways to reframe it, and always searching for the external validation too, of like, oh, this is true, that the other thing is not true, this can be true, not all rich people are greedy. I know now 5 rich people who are awesome and donate to charities and who are lovely, so that's not true. So what else isn't true? So just being in that curious exploratory phase to debunk, I think, stories that were holding me back.
And it's interesting, like you said, like the word, I feel like the word of the year for me is curious and curiosity, just because
Yes.
because I think it infiltrates both of my worlds of science and art,
Mm.
where I think so much of what my brain did for so long was being curious about the science and learning of the thing to the detriment of the art. And then now just kind of realizing that if like as a whole community of earth dwellers, right, so much good comes from the curiosity piece and people being curious about it. And as soon as I like step back and realize that like most people I'm surrounding myself with are these like curious beings, I'm kind of going on a bit of a rant here,
no, I love it.
but I just think what you said is just so great, right? Like realizing what you'd been taught as a child wasn't necessarily true, but realizing that as being a thing to be curious about, not a thing to get angry about, which I think we see so often in the world right now when we don't understand things.
Yeah.
And I think that's what art is, and is just so wonderful about it. So I just love that. I love that.
Yeah, curiosity. I love it. Look, I definitely went through an angry phase. Okay, I definitely had an angry phase, an angry therapy phase.
I think that's essential. As a funny aside, I just saw a meme online that was so funny that was like, how hard it is to heal when, like, as a child, all you wanted love, as a teenager, all you wanted was revenge, and now as an adult, all you want is peace. Like, how are you supposed to heal when you're like all 3 of those people are still here? I'm like, oh my God, that's so funny.
That is very funny.
So take me a little bit through your acting career before I really want to focus on some of the amazing coaching work you've done and like I've experienced. So you graduate from NYU. How does it progress? What happens to you kind of just from a practical standpoint as an actor?
Yeah. I floundered for a very long time. I let my money beliefs roll the roost. I made no money from it. This is a really terrible story. This is the terrible, truthful story. Until it all shifted, and it was the money thing that was the first thing that shifted for me. And then I started developing branding and marketing strategies, which I'll talk about later, but that I was using on myself of like, this is a business. It's like, okay, I've gotten my mindset in order, but now this is a business. How am I going to stand out in this? And so when I really started focusing on that, That's when my career took off. And like when I graduated too, I was trying to do everything. I was trying to do TV, film, commercials, musical theater, voiceover. Like I was trying to do everything, and there's no way. There's no way. So finally, literally, it was probably 8 years after I graduated college. I finally went musical comedy. That's my road. That's what I want to do. And then that's when I got my agent, and I got an off-Broadway show, and I did a cast recording with Stephen Schwartz, and then I started doing lots of regional stuff. So then the theater really started taking off. I always joke that you'd probably hear my voice on probably, I don't know, 40, 50 cast recordings musicals that never got made, like new musicals. Like I was like the queen of like, I'm going to sing, yes, I'm going to do this new musical reading and this and that. And then they never got made. But really it was just finding one path and going, this is the path that I want. And then that's when everything started catapulting for me in that area. Um, and then there was a point though where I think I fell out of love with musical theater and didn't admit it to myself. Like what was happening on Broadway at the time was a lot of jukebox musicals and things like that. And that was not in my heart. That's not what I wanted to do, but I just kept doing it. And then to switch gears to film and television. And I was always doing commercials. And then my coaching business brought me out to LA and I kept coming out here to teach. And I finally had the realization of I always go to vacation in the places that are sunny. Why don't I just live in the place that's sunny? So I moved to LA and like literally my first year here, I produced 3 films. Doors opened really fast. I was, booked a bunch of TV shows and really networked a lot, started a whole voiceover career that I never had in New York and started doing audiobooks, which I still do a lot of. So yeah, it just kind of all catapulted in that regard. Yeah.
And it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, the start of the catapult, besides moving to where it's beautiful and sunny, was almost like niche finding, like the specificity of it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's what it was, like more like narrowing in?
Yeah, well, I think I just got in patterns, and I think that's what happens with a lot of people who start acting younger is they go, oh, my goal is Broadway. This is what I'm doing, and I'm going to do this thing. And then they just keep that intention or goal even when they shift as humans. And I think I shifted as a human and my goals shifted, but I didn't want to admit it to myself because I felt like a failure in some way. So I think it is getting more niche specific of like, oh no, that it's like television is really what's in my heart. Like TV, I just love television. Um, so it just took me a while to uncover that or even admit it to myself because for so long I was like Broadway, Broadway, Broadway. But I think it was getting more specific and going, well, TV, if I want to do more TV, it was in LA. And yeah, so I think that was a part of it. And also another part in there too. Well, I guess I moved maybe 5 years, 4 or 5 years after that. I got breast cancer in 2008. And out of the blue, no family history, no nothing. I'm great now, like 14 years clean and clear. It's amazing. But that also had me just examine, like, what am I doing? Like, what am I really doing with my life? Is this really what I want? And like, I've been, everything was going well at that time, but it just makes you question things of life is short. What is it that I want? Is this what I want? And I think that's really when the journey of, just questioning or again being curious of I'm not loving going to these auditions, but all right, I'll keep doing it. But just like being curious about it. I think that's when that started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I think there's also that idea of like the sunk cost fallacy, right? Like you've invested so much in Broadway and musical theater and it's part of your identity and like, but if I change that, what about everything I've already built and thrown money into and thrown soul into and energy and years of my life into?
Oh,
I think it's you grieve the loss of it for sure.
Totally. You hit the nail on the head there. Totally. Yeah, because there is, I mean, I think musical theater is the most expensive career. If you're choosing a medium to go into, it is the most expensive because you need a vocal coach, you need an accompanist all the time for your songs, then you need dance lessons, and then like there's so much money that goes into that. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot.
So tell me how you even how did you even just get started into coaching? What was the kind of nexus of that?
Yeah. So, like I said, I floundered for a long time, right? And then worked on my mindset. And then there was a point though that I still like I wasn't making my mark. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, what's going on? So again, being curious, I read every business book that I could get my hands on. And I really spent about 6 months just reading about marketing and branding and business fundamentals and how companies do it and how are they branding themselves? What does that mean? I didn't even know that word, you know? And just really spent some time doing that. And I was like, okay, well, how can I apply this to myself? And so then I slowly started applying it to my own acting career. And that's when, things really started gelling and, I booked things and got my agent and all that. And then I had friends come up to me and go, "What are you doing? What are you doing differently? What are you doing in your career?" And I was like, "Can I take you out for coffee and pick your brain?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, that'd be great. Let's go for coffee." And after like that happened, literally probably 30 or 40 times, I was like, "I think I have a skill set. I think I have a skill set here." That's literally how it started. Because actors just don't think about business, and like I'm very left and right brain balanced, I think, and my curiosity is very left brained. I'm type A. I love learning things and figuring shit out. So I thought that was not that it was easy for me, but easier for me, I think, to learn those things, uncover those things, develop a system around those things, and realizing like, well, everyone could learn this. Everyone could learn. They just pick up a book and read the book about this branding thing. It's really great. But I never put two and two together of like, oh, but some people just don't think that way. They just don't function that way, and they don't want to pick up the book and read. They want someone to go, give me the system, and I'll follow the system. So that's when I really started creating my branding and marketing system. So I launched my first business in 2007, end of 2007. Into 2008, I really started coaching. And it's been in many incarnations, but that was really the impetus was just too many free coffee dates.
Well, and it's interesting because I think there's you like again you hit the nail on the head from my own personal experience as being someone who loves the learning of the things, which
Yeah.
is the left brain, the science brain, right? Like it's I'm going to read the textbook on how to, I don't know, be an actor.
Right.
But also it's these are controllable things about the business of acting that
Yeah.
I can put claws in when everything else in the acting realm makes no sense to me because there's no control. Right? So like, do you think was that like kind of part of it being like, look, I have this and I can offer, right? Like it's controllable stuff. In the business
system. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. That's one of the things I always say now to actors is you feel out of control because the business is subjective. So you feel out of control. And if you perceive you're out of control, that's chaos, right? So you can't run a creative career and feel chaotic. But if you feel like, oh no, I am in control of these things. And there's so much more we're in control of than we think. And so that's really what I think the big part of my work is allowing actors to see what they are in control of and how they can actually create the narrative of their own career. Yeah.
I want to focus on something that I mean, the whole idea of marketing and branding. And just from a personal standpoint, being Canadian in the Canadian film industry, we hear so often the differences between Canada and the United States in the industry, and I've been hearing more and more about it over the last couple of months just from friends who've made transitions to the States and stuff like that. And because there's such scarcity of jobs in Canada, and it's not like there's but I think there's also, and this is such a stereotypical thing, but like as being so nice that like if there's any job, I'll be like, I'll just do anything. I'll just do a little walk-on role. And a friend of mine was like, when I was talking about a project, and I was like, I'll just be at the background. Oh my God. He was like, that is the most Canadian mindset, and you need to stop that. He's like, American actors never think that way. And so I wanted to pick your brain just about, because every Canadian actor I know has a really hard time marketing themselves because it sounds braggy, and we think it sounds braggy. And we don't know how to brand because that sounds braggy. And we're like, but like, this is not how you build a system in the entertainment industry. Canada, I mean, this little baby. So like, please enlighten us, ease us into this as polite little Canadians that we are. Help us, Jodie.
Oh my God, I love it. I do have a lot of Canadian clients, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And I do have a lot of, I think a lot of actors I find too in the States, and yes, I think we're more brash and braggy, entity as a whole. Yes, and some are brash and braggy. Yes, it's common. But there's a lot of actors here in the States that are people pleasers. That I'm a recovering people pleaser. So it's like, just give me anything, I'll do it, I'll do it. So you're not alone with that. But there is this disconnect, I think, a lot of the times with how can I want to be seen and I want to be heard, but they just don't see me and don't hear me because it's too much, you know? So it's a push and pull. But that's why when I talk about marketing, it's not braggy, it's not pushy. Marketing is sharing. It's literally sharing. Like, you get to share your gift. Like, if you don't share your gift, no one's going to know about it, but it's just you authentically sharing it. So how can you do, and it has to come from an authentic place. It really does. And, I don't think everyone needs to be like, look at me, I'm amazing. Like, we don't need to do that. But how can you do it in a way that feels authentic, but it's still, you get to share. You still get to share who you are and what you believe and your point of view and your talent. And for me, branding is just a shortcut to get people to see it faster. Right? I don't find branding braggy. Branding is the work that you do personally as an actor. You don't walk around going, my brand is this. Look at me. This is my brand. It's not about that. Like, I have clients when it's right on their resume that they took a branding workshop. I'm like, no, let people just think you know. Do you know what I mean? You're just doing it. It's just who you are, right? Because a brand isn't putting something on, it's really allowing you to shine through. So for me, branding is more of just that a shortcut for them to go, oh, I see who Janet is. I get it. I want to know more. Right? That there's clarity there and specificity there and confidence there, that you just know who you are. That's really what branding is. I remember, pursuing acting in the 90s in New York, and it was like, wearing black turtlenecks going, I'll be whatever you want me to be. Just tell me what to be. You know what I mean? Just, that's like not the industry now. The industry wants to know who you are. They want to know more about you, and they want to know your POV through that material. And the only way to do that, I think, effortlessly, is just to deeply know who you are. And for me, that's branding. Branding is know thyself, right? And for me, it starts internally of, who are you? What's the legacy you want to leave in this business? What are the stories you want to tell? How do you want to show up? What do you want to be known as? Like, that's you defining your own path and roadmap. And then, of course, we take into consideration the external perception of how we're perceived, right? So that's important. We need to know that, because how we talk, how we show up, even bone structure, says a lot about. That's why, like, I have strong eyebrows and strong cheekbones, and people go, "Oh, she's power, she's authoritative, she's bitchy." Do you know what I mean? Simply just because of bone structure, right? So we need to know those things, but it starts with you, and I think that's where people can get caught up, is they feel like branding is putting something on them. So now I have to be this thing, and I have to show up and tell the world I'm this thing, and that's uncomfortable. And that's not what branding is, right? It's really ownership of self and ownership of who you are in the business, and then just making it clear so people get it. So that way you don't have to be brash, braggy, in your face, because people will get it.
One of the most interesting things, a couple things came to mind. I mean, I love the word specificity. I think that's so key, because again, like what you were saying, when everyone starts out, we're all those 90s actors in New York City with black turtlenecks being like, if I specify and niche myself, I'm limiting,
right?
Especially here in Canada, when it's just scarcity, we're limiting what we can do. But I mean, that has to be a myth, right? Like, the more specific you can kind of become, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the more doors seem to open.
1,000%, 1,000%. It's a huge myth. Well, think of it this way: if you and I wanted to go get dinner, and I go like, well, Janet, what do you want to eat? And you're like, I don't know. What do you want to eat? Well, I don't know. What do you want to eat? We can go back and forth forever, right? But as soon as I said, I want Italian, you'd go, oh, Jodie, there's this perfect place in the corner. I know, right? Because my specificity allowed your imagination to open, or else we're just in a vague place. So specificity actually allows other people's imaginations to launch. It actually is more creative. It makes people feel more connected, because they feel like, I understand this person. I get what they do. I can see who they are, and I can see them doing all of these things. So it actually opens things up even more. But there is an innate fear of, if I define myself, I will only be seen as that thing and I lose opportunity. And that is just a lack mentality, right? And it's a thing of like, I'm going to try to be everything to everybody, and that never works. If you were, buying a house, you wouldn't go to a divorce lawyer. You wouldn't go to, a malpractice lawyer. You wouldn't go to the lawyer on TV who's like, pick me. I practice all kinds of law. I'm amazing. You'd go to the freaking real estate lawyer. You'd go to the specialist, and you trust in that. So I always ask actors, like, what are you the specialist in? They define you, so people, when they, a casting director, a role comes in, they go, oh yes, Janet's perfect for this, as opposed to, maybe Janet could do it, but we have all these other 5 people that could really do it, that so that specificity will always win. It will always win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think about, I just got headshots done recently, and
Nice.
I did we call it a very LA thing to do, very American thing to do, because like in Canada, honestly, everyone has the commercial smile headshot and the theatrical, I'm in a leather jacket, I'm a badass shot. That's it.
Oh
that's
God,
all, right?
yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go. And I went so specific with my headshot, which is what a lot of people are doing. And right out the gate, I booked something, not even an audition, just from the headshot. My agent was like, they just wanted it from the headshot, bing, bang, boom. And it was one, no makeup, but it's making the casting director's job easy.
Yes.
Being like, oh, she looks exactly like what I want. As opposed to like, oh, here's 20 actresses looking badasses in a black leather jacket. Can she play like drug dealer? I don't know. But again, that's just as an aside, as a comment. But here's the thing that I know I struggled with. And it was not knowing, and again, this is probably everyone out there, not knowing what I am to others in the industry, because internally I will hopefully always feel like a 20-something who can play the lead in a Marvel or a CW series, right? Because my brain is 21 as I'm plucking gray hairs out of my head, right? And so it was so interesting to get feedback from people.
Yeah,
and it's a bit of a gut punch. It's vital. And one of the coolest things I ever did was do a voiceover class where we all turned our cameras off and we each spoke the same monologue, and people wrote adjectives. And about what we heard. And it was the biggest eye-opener for me. Yeah. And I think that's such a struggle for so many actors. So I'm curious to hear what you do when you work with actors to try and not only find their niche specificity, but also do it in a way to be like, it's okay. You're getting older. You know what I mean? Like it can be a bit gut wrenching when you're like, I think I'm like this. Yeah. And as a coach to be like, I don't think you are. And that's great.
It's a very good question. And I agree with everything you said. A lot of what I have my clients do is gathering that data, right? I call it getting that external perception data. And that's very important. And my voiceover clients, especially, it's not about your face. It is about the timbre of your voice, the sound of your voice, the tone, right? All of that is so important. I don't think I've had, maybe I've had a handful. I think when clients come to me, I think they're ready. I think they're ready to go, something ain't working, so just be honest with me. Do you know what I mean? I don't think a lot of clients come to me who are holding on to the 20. Do you know what I mean? They know that they're not that anymore, but they don't know how to get people to see them now, or they don't know how to define themselves now. They don't know how to talk about themselves now. So I haven't had a lot of, I've had maybe a couple, but not a ton of resistance with that, because I think they're coming to me going, I'm older now. Help me out. There's some already awareness and acceptance of that, which is definitely challenging. I've been there. But how I work with people is really, again, like what I was talking about earlier, it's like, it starts with you. So I have all these like personal assessment exercises of really defining who you want to be. I have this whole exercise I call branding themes, because I think we're all drawn to themes of stories. And it's really uncovering what the themes are. Because I think so many people think, oh, I have to choose between drama or comedy, and that's my brand. My brand is drama, or my brand is I'm a comedy actor. It's like, no, that's not a brand. That's just, you can do multicam, you can do indie films, you could do commercials, you could do whatever. And how does your brand fit in all of that? And for me, it's really uncovering the branding themes to uncover the through line of the stories you tell. Because every single person, I really believe, has probably 7 to 10 branding themes that just fit them like a glove, and like they can tell that story. I really help clients uncover that. And then it's the external perception of, okay, let's collect that data. Let's look at what you want. How do we make that play nicely together now? Right. Because I think if you only listen to yourself in this business and you go, no, but I am a 20 something, right? Whatever. I'm the ingenue at 40, whatever. You're going to get bitter and jaded and burnt out because you're not going to get the responses that you want. But on the flip side, if you only listen to people and people are like, no, you're tough, you're a badass, you're this, you're that, like, oh, okay, I guess I got to be a tough badass, right? So you put on a leather jacket and you do whatever. Like, if you only listen to that, you will also get bitter and jaded and burnt out because you're leaving yourself out of the equation. So I really help people find that common, the merge between those two things. I think a lot of people in this industry are more like, nope, you should do this, you're this, be this, get this headshot, do this thing. And again, I think a lot of actors are people pleasers and they want to work. So they go, okay, 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 okay. And so they do those things, but then they're like, it doesn't feel authentic, right? So then they're not really putting their true selves out in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you notice any differences, and I'm not saying one's better than the other, any differences between actors who have been doing this, like you, kind of all their lives, went to theater school, and actors who are asking for your help now, coming at this after another career?
So I noticed differences. I think one client popped into my head. You know what? It comes back to what we were talking about of curiosity. I think clients coming to this, and I have lots of clients, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, literally coming into the business. It's lovely. And maybe had other careers and are coming into it. And what I find with them is there's fear of like, am I too late? Right? That's the big question. I'm afraid it's too late. That's the big thing. And it's never too freaking late. I mean, look at TV, look at the roles that are being written. It's for everybody, right? We need all ages, all sizes, all shapes, all colors, all everything. So it's never too late. But what I feel is the people coming at it now who had maybe life experience, who maybe had a foundation of success in another place, there's a different curiosity of like, kind of like, just tell me what to do, coach, and I'll do it. Do you know what I mean? And I think the people who've been in it for a long time are a little like, I'll try it, but that didn't work before. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'll listen to you, but I've been doing it for so long and that didn't work. I'm like, cool, I get it, but you're a different human now. It's a different industry now. How about if you just try it? Just try it for me. I find myself saying that a lot to clients. Like, don't do it for you. Can you just do it for me for this 1 week? Can you send that email for me and see what happens? And then they come back like, oh my God, it worked. I'm like, I know.
I say that to my patients all the time. Just do it for me. That's so interesting. Yeah.
And it's not, I mean, that's obviously a generalized version of it, but I think that would be the biggest difference. I think that people who are coming in it now are like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm giving it. It's my shot. I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? So just tell me what to do. And like, I had a client who came to me in his 50s. He might be early 60s, but 50s, 60s. Like no experience, was doing improv in San Diego. Like no experience, always wanted to do it. And then got to a point in his life and he was like, okay, it's time. And he was so green, like so green. And we worked on all of his stuff and he's got great headshots. He's got a great website. He got in a really great acting class and he's booked like 2 TV. He's already got a SAG card, booked 2 TV shows. He got an agent, he got a manager and like, and he was like, in 2 years prior, he's like, I never thought this would be possible. I was like, well, but you put in the freaking work and you wanted it. And you didn't let the excuses or the fear or the bitterness or the whatever get in the way. So I think that sometimes is the difference, is people just come more with a childlike mentality of like, just tell me what to do. Let's play. Let's figure it out.
And so has there been anything in your career, both coaching and in acting, has there been anything that's been really surprising for you?
Oh gosh. Surprising. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I feel like I'm always so like curious and present, but I feel like I'm really good at change and, and adapting. I don't think anything's been like, whoa, you know. I mean, look, the pandemic was surprising, that's for sure, and how that affected everything, and still affecting things and how it's unfolding in our industry. So that was surprising, but I feel like even then I jumped into how can I help people? How can I take care of people? I mean, during the pandemic, I did not bake bread and collect unemployment. I was working like 60 hours a week, 70 hours a week, helping actors, making them feel better that, the world is not ending. We're good. It'll come back. Um, but it was surprising the growth in my business that happened during the pandemic. I'll say that because I think actors finally had time, space, and some money to actually do the work that maybe they had been putting off or resisting because they had more space and time to do it. And I think that's why a lot of actors had a lot of success even during the pandemic and got agents and was booking things and got their self tape set up. Is there was just space and time, um, which I think even built confidence in a different way for people. So I think it was surprising the growth I had as a coach, I think, and a human during the pandemic, and seeing the growth in actors, like the ones who, this is no judgment whatsoever, but the ones who are like, okay, I have this time, I'm going to learn. What do I need to learn? You know, um, and the ones that did that, and just seeing now, just the trajectory of a lot of my clients I started working with in 2020 is pretty powerful. So I think that was surprising. It was definitely, I think, surprising moving to LA. I always thought I'd be an East Coast gal. I grew up in Massachusetts and, New York City. I was like, New York, I can always live in New York. So I think that was big life shift and surprising. But yeah, those are the two things I can think of, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With, I think, the growth of social media and onlineness
Yeah.
with the pandemic, new actors I know that I speak to, and it's weird to think of myself as not a new actor anymore. I've been like now in this for like 3 years, lordy me. But a
Yes.
lot of it is there's so much noise, there's so much content and information and people and coaches and things and classes and promises out there. Like, it's just chaos. And I know my social media, because of the algorithm, just feeds me that.
Yeah.
How do you have any advice for especially newer actors who are trying to sift through that and trying to find somebody like yourself with because you're just such an authentic, wonderful human being?
Thank you.
Like, how do you like sift through it all? There's just so much.
I know. I talk about this a lot. Yeah, I mean, the past 3 years has been insane, right? With the amount of, everyone has a masterclass, everyone has a webinar, everyone has a free thing, everyone has a free. I think it's just like, oh my God. I mean, I'm webinared out. I can't think. I know my clients are webinared out. It's hard. So even as a business owner, though, it's hard to like, how do I get you to know me? Because no one wants to take webinars anymore. So I was like, damn it. But right, exactly. It's and I think when new people start off, there is this um there's a fear that starts with that too, right? Like, I don't know what I don't know. I need to learn these things. I have to learn it. I'm going to be behind. I'm already behind. Everyone seems so far ahead of me, right? So there's already this fear, I think, going into it, and this FOMO. So I think that's what's playing into everything. And I find a lot of people, I'll just say people, have a lot of fear-based marketing. And that's what people get drawn to. Because they're like, I'm afraid of this. And they go, oh, that person's speaking to my fear, but they're promising I'm going to book TV in 30 days. No one can promise you that. No one can promise you that you're going to get an agent. No one can promise you that you're going to book TV in 30 days. No one can promise you that you're going to do a 2-hour workshop and walk out knowing your brand. Please run away and don't do that. No, there are these big promises people are making. So, but it plays into the fear, right? Which is hard because then we want it. But I think I really just say to my clients, like, if people are like, oh, you got to sign up by 2 p.m. or else it's gone. You're like, just, you can always renegotiate. Things can always, if they vibe with you and you like that person and you miss a deadline because you wanted to think about it, just reach out and ask. Right. I mean, that's how I run my business. You know what I mean? I don't know if everybody does, but I just think, just start to eliminate the pressure. But I think it's really important to understand what is it you want and what is it you need? Because you don't need every class. You don't need every acting class. You don't need every business class. You don't need everything. What do you need right now? Like I have actors coming to me going, well, what acting class should I take? I go, well, what are you looking for? Do you need to work on your audition technique? Do you want a scene study because you want to get more into character stuff? Are you looking for a monologue class because you're in theater and you want to work on monologues? Or you want more camera technique? Like there's a zillion and 5 different acting classes. Like, what do you want? What is it that you need for you? Not just because your friend freaking took a class and you're like, well, she did, I must do it. No, what do you need right now? So I think it's really important to just like make a list or sit with yourself and go, okay, what skills am I really good at? What do I feel really good at right now? And where do I feel like I could use some work? And where am I willing to invest? So if I need on camera technique and I need to build my brand and I need social media help and I need this, well, what's the priority number one? And where is it most important for you to put your money? Because you can't put your money everywhere. So I think I just invite people just to take a step back because there's so much FOMO. Even sometimes, like I've been doing this for 13 years. I know what I mean, coaching for 13 years. I've been an actor for a long time. I'll even read some marketing from people going, well, I need that. And I'm like, no, you don't. But I'm just falling prey to the freaking fear-based marketing, And I'm like, that's good marketing. I'm like, no wonder they have a bigger company than I do. You know what I mean? But I don't want to do that. So I think we as artists, you have to be really discerning about what is it that you need, because you might not need that goal setting class right now. You might be that you really need to get in an improv class to feel freedom in your auditions, because if you have the greatest goals but you're not killing it in the audition room, well, where's the disconnect? Do you know what I mean? So I think the FOMO is just it's a lot. It's a lot. I get asked this a lot from clients, or they say I bought these 12 courses during the pandemic and I've only done one. Where should I start? It's like, oh my gosh, it's a lot. So I think we just get to be really honest with ourselves about what we need in the moment, and know just because you don't buy that thing today doesn't mean in 6 months it might not be the thing for you, but just be really discerning about what you need now, which is going to move the needle for you. And if you don't know that, then find someone you trust, like talk to actors, talk to people, right? Find a mentor that you trust. That's why so many of us are putting out these free stuff, is so who we are and how we teach, and you go, yeah, I know I vibe with her, or no, I really like him and I want to work with him. Whatever it is, but you got to find your people. You got to find your people. And not just because, again, your friend said, right? Just because your friend photographed with that photographer doesn't mean it's the right photographer for you. Just because your friend did that acting class doesn't mean it's the right acting class for you. What do you need? So I think it's just always important to go back to self.
Mm-hmm. And that authenticity that we've been talking about since the start, right? Like finding that self.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So my last couple questions are a little bit more fun. Well, this one's always fun. Do you have a favorite memory, either on set, on stage, from your career?
I read your list of questions ahead of time and I was sitting there going, I don't remember anything.
It's all gone.
It's gone. I don't know where it went. No, but as I was thinking about it, I mean, oh God. I mean, there's a lot of just fun, lovely moments. But the one thing that popped in my head this morning, which I don't know why, was actually when I was doing theater in my 20s. And I was working in a small town, upstate New York, at a summer stock theater. And I was doing this play called Sylvia, which is an A.R. Gurney play. And Sarah Jessica Parker did it on Broadway. And the role of Sylvia is played by a woman, but she's playing a dog. A.R. Gurney always bends gender and species and everything. So it's like what a dog would say and think. And that's actually a really funny play. I've done it twice in my life. But it's just like thinking of just the things we as actors deal with sometimes. I'd literally walk down the street in this small town and everyone knows the people in the theater and everyone knows everything. And I would just literally walk down the street and people would bark at me. Like they would just bark at me. And they're like, what do you do? You're like, like, that's me. I'm a dog. Like it was just, it's just funny what people do. But I definitely, it was nice to be known and recognized, of course. But that moment always sticks with me. I'm just like, not even saying hi, just barking
Just
at me.
barking. I
Yeah.
love that. I
Yeah.
love that. Do you have any final words of advice or wisdom?
I mean, always. Let me think. What do I want to share? And I think I've been saying this throughout, but especially if it's people, starting this later in life, coming to this career, right? What I love is that you already know yourself, like you've had a life, you've had probably other careers, but I think that's the biggest thing is just remembering that. Just remember to know thyself, and you're choosing to do this career for you. You're not doing this career for your agent, for your manager, for directors, for producers, for whatever. You're doing it for you because something is driving you to do it. And just know that it's your career and you get to define what that is and what that looks like. Because I think the biggest thing I do for actors is that my whole thing is like I help actors take back to the control and not give their power away. So just remember to not give your power away. Don't come back in going, well, I haven't been in, I don't know what's happening, and all this technology, and oh, I'm too old. Screw all that, right? You know who you are, and just remember that. And to not lose that. Because I think so many people, when they start off really young in this business, they lose sight of who they are and they get caught up in everyone else's vision. And then it's 10, 20 years in, they're like, this wasn't the career that I wanted for myself. So I think it's just so important to remember that even though we feel like we're at the whim of this crazy industry, which is still ebbing and flowing post pandemic, that you are in control of your career and your actions, your choices, your goals, and who you want to be in this industry.
I love that. If people are wanting to work with you, where can they find more information?
Yes. You can go to jodiebentleycareercoach.com. You can go to Jodie Bentley Career Coach on Instagram and follow me there. I put out a lot of free videos and tips and things, more free stuff for you, more free things.
She has lots of free stuff, everyone. Trust me. Yeah.
Yeah, you can go to my website, go to Instagram. That's pretty much where I hang out is Instagram and stuff. I also have, if you're on Facebook, I do have a Facebook group called The Actors Workspace, which I put a lot of content in. It's really fun, nice engaging community in there. So just come on in the community, watch some of my free stuff, ask me questions. I'm always available. I do free live Q&As on Instagram and in my Facebook group twice a month, just to get to know you. You get to know me. So yeah, come on by and ask your questions. I'm here to help.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And thank you, Jodie, for being my guest this week. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. And thank you, algorithm gods, for showing me Jodie. Because without the algorithm gods, I wouldn't have met this fabulous human being. If you are interested in working with Jodie, all the stuff to figure that out is down in the show notes below. And since you've listened to this, the algorithm will probably know and hopefully show you Jodie, just like it did me. I hope you will all tune in next week for another episode of Second Act Actors. Bye!